Kurt Cobain played several guitars that went on to become iconic. He's on record multiple times saying that the Fender Mustang is his favorite guitar. Two Mustangs that he played in particular are amongst some of the most famous and well-known guitars of his. There is the 1969 Competition Mustang that was used in the Smells Like Teen Spirit music video. This is currently the most expensive electric guitar ever sold. It sold for over $4.5 million in 2022. The other, which in my humble opinion is the coolest Nirvana guitar, is a 1993 Japanese custom shop Mustang that is known as Skystang I. The Sonic Blue Mustang that Kurt played for almost the entirety of Live and Loud, played very predominantly on the Utero tour, and played at Nirvana's very last show. What can get a little confusing is that Skystang I has two look-alike siblings, Skystang II and Skystang III. In this video, we will be breaking down the three Skystangs, what is similar between the three, what sets them apart from each other, and the significance of each. The genesis of these guitars starts in 1993 when Kurt placed an order for 10 MG69 Mustangs from the Fender Custom Shop in Japan. He ordered 5 red and 5 blue. They were made by Scott Zimmerman in the Fujigen factory. When these guitars were delivered to Kurt, they most likely looked something like this. This is a completely stock blue MG69 Mustang. The three Skystangs are all the same sonic blue color and all have red tortoiseshell pickguards. Skystang I was amongst the first received of the order. It was delivered in July 1993. When Kurt's guitar tech Ernie Bailey first saw the guitar, he thought it was well built, as was typical for Fender Japan, but knew that it would take several modifications before it went into Kurt's hands. The changes Ernie did include making the bridge pickup route in the pickguard and body bigger to fit a full-size humbucker, and swapping out the stock Mustang bridge single coil pickup to a Seymour Duncan JB. But why this pickup in particular? Ernie was very familiar with the JB. When he first worked as an apprentice in a guitar repair shop in the late 80s, he had noticed that customers were falling in love with the JB, which was a new pickup at the time. It became his go-to when customers wanted pickup recommendations, and he never once had anyone come back and say that they didn't love it. He put a JB in Skystang I, and Kurt commented right away that he really liked the pickup. The rest of his In Utero era Mustangs all went on to have JBs. The JB was initially body mounted. The logo is scratched off, which Ernie did himself, as at the time he didn't like having the logo on there. Present day, the upper left corner appears to have been, for lack of a better phrase, chewed up a bit. All three Skystangs have a full-size JB, but Skystang I is the only one with a white one. Another change that was done right away is the bridge was replaced with a small post Nashville-style tune-o-matic. Ernie has said that that particular bridge was used because it's what he had at the time, and that it probably came off of one of his own guitars. Skystang I does not have the offset contour body decal on the headstock. All it says is simply Fender. The pickguard material Fender used at the time was red tortoiseshell that would sometimes have random yellow specks throughout. Skystang I has a very clear V-shaped speck in between the pickups. The V is extremely unique and very easy to pick up on in live footage. This is how Skystang I hit the road in October of '93 when the In Utero tour started. Currently, there are no high-quality close-up pictures of it by itself in this form, only pictures of it on stage. To give an idea as to how it looked in this form, this is my Fender Kurt Cobain signature Mustang that is modded to this time period. Body-mounted white JB, full uncut pickup switches, and Nashville-style tune-o-matic bridge. This is the form that Kurt played it the most in, from October '93 to early January '94. This is how we see it in December of '93 at Live and Loud. It is the most played guitar on that tour by a long shot. All the others don't even come close. We know for certain that it was used at least 50 In Utero tour shows, but there are several shows that we currently have no pictures or videos of. So there is a real possibility that Skystang I might have been used at every show on the tour. When the European leg of the tour started in February of 1994, there were some changes done to it. In Europe, guitar tech Jim Vincent cut down the pickup switches. Kurt would accidentally bump the switches while strumming, and this was the solution for that. The JB was also switched to be screwed into the pickguard instead of being body mounted. This is it in its final form, and how it was played on the European leg of the tour, and how it is present day. Shortly after Kurt passed, Courtney gifted this guitar to his brother, Chad Cobain. Chad lent it to the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle, where it was displayed for 18 years. In November of 2023, this historic guitar will be auctioned off in Nashville by Julian's Auctions. Shortly before the auction was announced, I was invited by Julian's to document and see this guitar up close, while both Ernie and Chad were in the room. That day was a dream come true that I'm still processing. I have documented that entire day and my experience with the guitar in this video. Check it out if you want to see nearly every inch of this guitar analyzed and discussed in depth. Let's now move on to the next in line, Skystang II. This was used live, but significantly less than Skystang I. It was only seen at 5 shows. Notably, used for almost the entirety of the December 30th, 1993 show in Los Angeles, which is on the Utero 30th anniversary box set. But it's perhaps most well known for its use on Nirvana's final TV show appearance on The Tunnel in February 1994. Here are the things that differentiate it from its much more used brother. It has a black JB. The logo appears to be scribbled out with black marker. It also does have the offset contour body decal on the headstock. While it also has a Tune-O-Matic bridge, this one has an ABR style tom, as opposed to the Nashville style tom that is on Skystang I. It also has a yellow speck on the pickguard that makes it easy to pick out. If you're looking directly at the guitar from the front, at this perspective, the speck is to the left of the JB. As happened with Skystang I, it also had its switches cut down when it arrived in Europe. This is the guitar that Fender was given by the Cobain estate when they were planning the official Kurt Cobain signature Mustang. Essentially what Fender did was making an Utero-era Mustang available in 3 colors. That's why all 3 models have a black JB and ABR bridges. One could argue that they should have really based it off of Skystang I, since that is by far the most iconic guitar of the era. But at the same time, you can't blame Fender for creating a signature model based off of what they were physically given access to at that time. Skystang II has never been displayed publicly, and as far as we know at this point, it's still with the Cobain estate. That leads us to the final of the trio, Skystang III. There is 0 footage of Kurt ever playing this guitar, and there's some evidence on it that could lead us to believe it never saw the stage. It is very similar to Skystang II in many ways. It has a black JB with a logo that appears to be scribbled out. It also has the offset contour body decal on the headstock and an ABR1 bridge. The 2 things that make 3 stick out from 2 is its yellow pickguard speck is in a different spot, right above the center of the JB. Also, its switches were never cut. This is the only in utero Stang that did not have cut switches. Skystangs 1 and 2, a range Stang, and the Jag-Stang all had their switches cut. This is something that Kurt obviously wanted done to the guitars he was using live at the time. This makes it very probable that Skystang III was never once used live. Although after Kurt, it does have an interesting story to it. A young fan named Bobby Costello wrote a letter to Courtney soon after Kurt passed. Courtney was so touched by his letter that she responded by sending him this guitar. Years later though, his parents sold it behind his back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. While it was on display there, a fan jumped over the barrier and stole the volume and tone knobs off of the guitar. They were later replaced by the museum with identical knobs. This is the first Kurt guitar I ever saw in person, at the Hall of Fame back in 2009. 10 years later, in 2019, it was auctioned off via Julien's Auctions for $340,000. But present day, at the time of recording this video, it is back on display at the Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio. So in conclusion, when you see footage of Kurt playing one of these, there's a 98% chance you are looking at Skystang I. Even though this guitar was not used on the album, it will always be the In Utero guitar in my mind due to its prominent use on the In Utero tour. I would argue that there is no other guitar that better represents that era, visually and sonically. Thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Instagram at Nirvana Guitars, and subscribe and check out my other Nirvana Gear videos right here on YouTube.